Are you at risk for a diabetic foot ulcer? Diabetic foot ulcers are one of the most devastating complications to happen to a diabetic. They have turned my patients' lives upside down. Diabetic foot ulcers are the gateway to a diabetic foot infection, and diabetic foot infections can lead to hospitalizations, surgeries, loss of your toe, even leg amputations, and loss of life. So in this video, I will share 5 risk factors in the development of diabetic foot ulcers so you can prevent this devastating complication. So hang with me. Hey everybody, it's Dr. Gaffney from Dr. Gaffney Best Foot, helping you save time and money in your foot care decisions. So what is a diabetic foot ulcer? It's just a wound on a diabetic's foot that has not healed in the proper amount of time, and it turns into a chronic, hard to treat wound, and it can go on for months and months. It's very expensive to treat, and I just want to say before we get started, we need to understand that there's a spectrum in diabetic foot health. So it goes on one end where you're very healthy, where you have good blood flow, good sensation, good blood sugar control, to the other end of the spectrum where there is a numb foot with very decreased circulation to the foot and out of controlled blood sugar. And there's anywhere in between there. So it's a spectrum. So not everyone is at high risk for a diabetic foot ulcer. You could be very low risk with a healthy diabetic foot. And I just wanted to mention that because I've had so many new patients who are diabetics come into the practice, and they come in terrified, worried that they're going to lose their leg. And then I do an exam and they have great blood flow, really good sensation, and their hemoglobin A1C is like a 6, which is excellent. That's a 3-month blood sugar control is the measure, is the hemoglobin A1C. So on the other hand, I have at-risk patients coming in with very little blood flow to their foot, a numb foot, and out of control blood sugar. And those patients are at high risk. So I just kind of alluded to the risk factors we're going to be talking about, but I just wanted to let you know about the spectrum so you don't have to be so terrified being diabetic that you're going to definitely get a diabetic foot infection, because your foot could be in very good health and extremely low risk for a diabetic foot ulcer. So the first risk factor in the development of a diabetic foot ulcer is neuropathy. And neuropathy just means that your little nerves out to your feet are not working right. And diabetes with high blood sugar over the time is very toxic to nerves, and it starts to kill the little nerve endings where you don't feel your foot. And that sets you up to get trauma that you can't detect, and that can turn into a chronic wound. So how I see this play out in my practice is that I have a patient comes in and they say, "Oh, doc, in the morning I put on my shoes, my foot was fine. I take it off at night, my foot was swollen and red." And I do an exam and they have a blister or a wound or maybe a foreign body in there because they have a numb foot and they didn't feel it. So if you do have numbness from neuropathy, it's very important to be checking your foot every day, checking inside the shoe, never going in bare feet, and wearing a good diabetic shoe most of the time, or even a well-fitted shoe most of the time. I did a very in-depth video on diabetic neuropathy, what it is and how to prevent it, so please see that. And there's a lot of resources in there on how to prevent diabetic neuropathy and different ways to help diabetes in general. So the second risk factor in the development of a diabetic foot ulcer is poor circulation. So in the feet, the blood vessels have a long way to go, and the blood vessels are very small, so they're prone to the plaque buildup and the occlusion the whole way down the arterial tree there. So the blood flow is important for healing a diabetic foot ulcer because it delivers the oxygen and nutrients needed to heal. So when there's poor circulation, it doesn't get there, it slows down the healing a lot. So what you can do to prevent it is get moving. Any movement that you can do, walking, just moving your feet. My nursing home patients that have poor blood flow, who can't walk, I tell them to move their toes, do ankle rolls, anything to get that blood flowing down there will help. Another thing that helps with blood flow down to the foot is maintaining good blood sugar controls. So with the high blood sugar over time, it creates an inflammatory environment in your body, and your body is more apt to lay down plaque inside the arteries. So trying to maintain good blood sugar control is very important. And lastly, and probably most importantly, is do not smoke, or at least cut down on smoking. I know smoking is so hard to quit, but it will ramp up your body's laying down of plaque inside the arteries. That plus your diabetes together, you're most guaranteed to have artery problems, either stroke, heart attack, or decreased blood flow to your feet. So if at all possible, work with your doctor to stop smoking. That is so important. Okay, so the third risk factor in the development of a diabetic foot ulcer is poor blood sugar control. So mainly it's high blood sugar most of the time. So what that does is the high blood sugar kind of cripples your white blood cells' ability to repair injured tissue and fight off infection. So if I have a patient with a blood sugar average around 200, then usually their diabetic foot ulcer just does not heal. It just stalls out. It just stays the same, or worse yet, it gets infected very easily. So blood sugar control is extremely important in healing a diabetic foot ulcer. The fourth risk factor in the development of diabetic foot ulcers is foot deformity. So lumps and bumps on the foot, either hammer toes or bunions or bumps at the ball of the foot. Probably the most deforming force in the foot is what we call equinus, and that is a tight heel cord. So your Achilles tendon or your heel cord attaches to your heel, and it pushes your foot down, and when it's too tight, your foot doesn't come up enough, so you're getting a lot of load at the ball of your foot, and that's a common place for diabetic foot ulcers to occur. So what you can do is try to stretch out that Achilles daily. Overall, it's really good for everyone to stretch their Achilles daily. Holding the stretch about 10 seconds and doing 3 sets of 10 a couple times a day. You can even wear a night splint to stretch it as well. Diabetics tend to have tight, soft tissue all over the place because the sugar in the body kind of attaches to ligaments and tendons and makes everything tight. We call that advanced glycation end products. So it's just important to stretch when you're diabetic. The other important part of keeping pressure off the foot deformities is the shoes. So certain Medicare patients do qualify for diabetic shoes. There's certain parameters that you have to meet for Medicare to pay for them. You'll get a diabetic shoe that will accommodate the deformities. To know if the shoe is pressing on your deformity, when you take your shoe off, if there's a red place, that you're likely getting pressure on the area and you need to change up your shoe. The other thing I wanted to say about the Medicare Diabetic Shoe program is that it's highly regulated. It takes a long, long time to get the diabetic shoes. So in the future, I'm going to be doing a video on how to look for a shoe that's good for a diabetic and where you can find it where it's not too expensive. Okay, the final risk factor in the development of a diabetic foot ulcer is a previous diabetic foot ulcer. You're much more likely to re-ulcerate there because all that normal tissue has been replaced with hard, thick scar tissue. So if it was caused by a bony prominence, that bony prominence likely is still there causing pressure. So at this point, it's very important to continue to see your podiatrist on a regular basis, to wear diabetic shoes and insoles, get them replaced in a timely manner. So with the diabetic Medicare shoe program, you can get a new pair a year, and you get multiple sets of insoles a year, and they will offload those pressure points at the ball of your foot or any place where you've had a previous ulceration. So that is just very important to prevent the diabetic ulcer from recurring. Okay, so the 5 risk factors in developing a diabetic foot ulcer: neuropathy or numb feet, poor circulation, poor blood sugar control, foot deformities, and previous foot ulcers. Please do everything you can to prevent diabetic foot ulcers. And I have, like I said in the diabetic neuropathy video, all kinds of resources. I'm going to list some resources here in the description that can help you avoid this horrible problem. And thanks so much for watching. Please like and subscribe and leave me any comments if you've suffered with a diabetic foot ulcer and how you got through it. And we will see you next time. Please see the full disclaimer in the description. This is not a doctor-patient relationship. This does not constitute medical advice, but is for informational purposes only.